If you ask most riders to name the biggest helmet brands, Scorpion EXO is probably not the first name they mention. Arai, Shoei, HV, Schubert, those are the brands many riders immediately think of when they hear the word premium. But Scorpion EXO has quietly built a very strong reputation on its own. Not by being the most expensive, not by being the most traditional, and not by trying to copy every other premium brand. Scorpion became known for something different. Sporty designs, strong value, practical features, and one very recognizable ID, the Airfit System. So today we're asking a very simple question. Is Scorpion EXO still an underrated helmet brand, or is there a reason why most riders should take it seriously? Let's find out. Scorpion EXO sits at an interesting place in the market. It is not usually seen as a pure budget brand, but it is also not always viewed in the same premium category as Shoei, Arai or Schubert. And that is exactly what makes Scorpion interesting. Because for many riders, Scorpion is the brand they discover when they start comparing features against the price. You look at a Scorpion helmet and suddenly you see things like carbon shells, aggressive spoilers, pinlock visors, sun visors, removable inner liners, emergency quick release pads and sporty designs. Then you look at the price and that is where the question begins. Are you getting a serious performance helmet for less money, or are you just getting a helmet that looks premium on paper? That is the reputation problem Scorpion has always had. It offers a lot, but some riders still wonder whether it can truly compete with the more established names. Before we talk about the lineup, we need to talk about the feature Scorpion is probably most famous for, Airfit. This is a system that lets riders pump air into the cheek pads to create a closer fit around the face. And honestly, it is a very clever idea, because a helmet fit is not only about head size. It is also about cheek pad pressure, face shape, comfort, stability and how the helmet feels after 1 hour on the road. With Airfit, Scorpion gives riders a little more control over that feeling. For some riders it helps the helmet feel more secure, for others it can reduce the loose feeling around the cheeks, and for people who are between sizes it can make a noticeable difference. Of course, it is not magic. Airfit cannot turn the wrong helmet shape into the right helmet, and it does not replace choosing the correct size. But it is one of those features that make Scorpion stand out. Scorpion EXO has always had a very strong sporty identity. Many of their helmets look aggressive, sharp lines, large fans, bold graphics, rear spoilers, dark visors, race-inspired shapes. This is not a brand that tries to look quiet or classic. Scorpion helmets often look fast before you even put them on. And that matters, because for many riders a helmet is not only a safety product. It is also part of the bike, part of the gear and part of the image, and that is why Scorpion does especially well with riders who want a helmet that feels modern, bold and performance focused. But the important question is whether the performance matches the look. The best way to understand Scorpion is not by looking at one helmet. It is by looking at the entire range, because Scorpion does not only focus on one type of rider. The Scorpion EXO Race Air is the kind of helmet that shows the sporty side of the brand. This is the helmet you look at when you want something aggressive, performance focused and clearly inspired by racing. It represents what many riders think of when they hear Scorpion EXO, sharp design, strong features and a serious road or track image. And then there's the Scorpion EXO Tech Evo Carbon. And this is a very different helmet. It is made for riders who want convenience. The flip-over chin bar makes it easier at fuel stops, during short breaks or when you need to talk without fully removing the helmet. And because this is the carbon fiber version, it speaks to riders who want modular practicality without moving too far away from a premium feel. Scorpion ADF 9000 is for adventure riders. And adventure helmets are difficult to get right. They need to work on highways, they need to work on back roads and they need to deal with different riding positions, windscreens and weather conditions. And they need to look at home on adventure bikes. That is where the ADF 9000 fits in. It gives Scorpion a serious option for riders who want adventure styling and practical touring features in one helmet. And then there's the Scorpion EXO 1500 Carbon Air. This might be one of the most interesting helmets in the range because it shows what Scorpion does well for everyday sport touring riders. Not everyone needs a racing helmet, not everyone needs a modular helmet, and not everyone rides adventure bikes. Some riders just want a lightweight, comfortable, good-looking full-face helmet with useful features and premium carbon shells. And that's where the Scorpion EXO 1500 Carbon Air makes sense. And when you put these helmets together, you start to understand the brand. Scorpion is not trying to win only one category. It is trying to offer serious options for sport riders, touring riders, adventure riders and daily riders. This is where Scorpion becomes difficult to ignore, because the brand is not only famous for one feature. It is famous for the complete package. Airfit, carbon versions, sporty styling, sun visors on many touring models, pinlock prepared visors, comfort liners, emergency systems on selected helmets, modern graphics and prices that often sit below the most premium competitors. That combination is the reason many riders choose Scorpion. They may not be buying the most prestigious badge, but they are getting a lot of helmet for the money. And for many riders that matters more. Because once you are actually riding, you do not feel the logo. You feel the weight, the fit, the ventilation, the visor, the noise, the comfort. That is where Scorpion tries to win. Not by being the most expensive, but by giving riders features they can actually use. Of course, that does not mean every Scorpion helmet is automatically better than a Shoei, Arai or Schubert. Those brands still have a very strong reputation for a reason. They often lead in refinement, long-term comfort, finish quality, premium materials and overall feel. And that is where Scorpion still has a challenge for some of its mid-range and entry-level models. Because value is not the same thing as perfection. A helmet can have many features and still not feel as refined as an expensive competitor. That is why Scorpion should not only be judged by the spec sheet, it should only be judged by how the helmet feels on the road. After looking at the brand, one thing becomes clear. Scorpion EXO is not just another mid-range helmet brand. It has its own identity. It is sporty, it is feature-rich, it is practical and it often gives riders a lot for the price. That is probably why Scorpion becomes such an interesting option for riders who want more than a basic helmet, but do not always want to pay premium brand prices. Is it the most prestigious brand in the world? Not yet. Is every Scorpion helmet perfect? Of course not. But is Scorpion EXO underrated? We think so, and many riders do. That is why it's one of the fastest growing helmet brands in the world right now. Because when you look at helmets like the EXO Race Air, EXOTech Evo Carbon, ADF 9000 and Scorpion EXO 1500 Carbon Air, you see a brand that is not only chasing trends. You see a brand that understands what many riders actually want. Performance, comfort, features, style and value. So what do you think? Would you choose Scorpion EXO over one of the bigger premium brands, or would you still pay more for a more established name? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Buy smart, ride safe and we'll see you in the next one.